Hi, this is PatZi with a Z. Welcome to Joy on Paper Live, a program for writers and those who dream of writing, and for everyone who wants to know the story behind the book. And today I have a really interesting story with my author interview with Barbara Hinske because we are discovering serial books. And this is so exciting. Hi, Barbara.
Hey, Patsy, it's wonderful to be with you again.
I am so excited about this program because I love reading books in serial fashion. I
hmm
started a few years ago with Middlemarch, and that was
hmm
just so much fun to do that. So, explain what it is for people who don't know.
So, a serialized novel is something that comes to the reader a chapter at a time or a little segment at a time. I think back in the day, the Saturday Evening Post was famous for running out its serialized novels. And in my own experience, I'm sure many of our readers read Alexander McCall Smith, known for the Ladies Detective Agency series set in Botswana. And he's a Scottish author, does a lot of serialized work as well. It perhaps has taken a more modern turn if some authors have Patreon accounts. And so they get paid subscribers to their Patreons, and then the Patreons get chapters of new books coming out early, a chapter at a time. So it's an old idea because, as you said, Charles Dickens made his career on them how many years ago? Um, and it's still going on today.
And now I've been so happy when you started doing this. I don't know when you started, but I remember when I got the first one and the night train, I just started
Yes.
getting these emails with a little bit and a little bit and a little bit at a time. And it's a wonderful way to do it. I think we'll talk about each of them separately, but Silver and Scotch is the one that's
That's
running
good.
right now, and I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to that all the time. And then, of course, the Enchanted Bookshop and Night Train. Really, I got so
Mm.
excited about that one. So let's talk about, maybe we'll talk about Silver and Scotch first because that's the one that's going right now.
Okay. And different ones will go at different times for different people. So, Silver and Scotch is a story about a silver thief or a thief who steals antique silver from somebody in Savannah. But he's a guy with a big heart, a shaded past, but a big heart, and is loosely based on a real thief that I read about. I think he was, gosh, it's been so many years now. I think he might have been profiled in the New York Times. The typical story where there's a clever thief and a determined detective, and they just go back and forth for years. The ending of all my stories have happy endings. I'm a happy ending kind of gal. So Silver and Scotch ended a little differently than the real story ended, but it was so much fun to write this fictionalized account and end it in a way that I thought, wouldn't it have been better for everybody if it just ended that way than the way it really did?
Well, did that come from your research for Rosemont? Because in Rosemont, you have always so many exciting little these snippets that
Yes,
you get.
that's exactly right. That's exactly where it came from. And because I have an attic in Rosemont that I wish was my own attic because it is full of all kinds of treasures. I'm an Antiques Roadshow's biggest fan, and I just live for the day I find the Civil War sword or something up in an attic. Not happening, but nonetheless, it happens in my novels, so I get to have it going on in my brain, and that's exactly my research there led me to this story about this actual thief.
Now, are you writing them as they go, or Charles Dickens, of course, would be writing them as they went along,
Yeah,
and sometimes changing them according to what the public was responding to?
boy, that is flying without a net to me. I'll tell you how it started. I never really set out to write serialized work, but back when I was a baby author and was trying to build my social media presence, and I was getting maybe 2 comments and 16 views on a post. I took a post, it was a Thursday, right? Or Wednesday, and I posted reposted a picture of this really cool red train going on a trestle bridge through the snow-covered Alps. It was a beautiful photo. And I thought, God, wouldn't that be interesting if somebody woke up on the train and found that there was nobody else on the train at all except a dead body? Wouldn't that be, or an injured person? Wouldn't that be interesting? So then I just wrote the first few lines of what that would be and posted it. And I got 6,000 shares on that post and hundreds of comments. And I thought, oh, this is so cool. So went back the next day and said, come back Monday through Thursday, starting next Monday, for installments of The Night Train, an international thriller. And I was so proud of myself, right? And then I thought, what? I have written not word one of this. And
That's a
you can
commitment.
paint yourself into a corner very easily with this sort of thing. So I spent the weekend, as my husband liked to say, in my pajamas, no hair, no makeup, no shower. I was just writing this. So I at least wrote the bare bones that one weekend. And I dubbed it my Facebook bedtime story. So come back for Facebook bedtime stories. That's when Facebook was operating differently than it does now. So I think it is 37 episodes. I posted them, got the most phenomenal response of it. They're short. As a Facebook post, there were 250 to 350 words that needed to advance plot, develop character, and end on a cliffhanger. So they're not fully formed novels, but they're what they are. I remember going into my own personal physician for a checkup, and he said, oh, I love that Night Train. He said, I don't have time, and I'm too tired when I go to bed. I don't have time to read novels, but I love that. So I thought, okay, I need to write more of these. And I did 2 more on the Facebook, Silver and Scotch, and the other one, the Enchanted Bookshop. I did them on Facebook. And then I realized I've got this great content. I need to keep it evergreen so it lives on my website, but I also, my newsletter subscribers, like you, I think, get them as emails. I think they go out in an autoresponder sequence every 2 or 3 days, and it gives me a year's worth of that stuff. So that whole thing has turned out to be gold for me.
It
It has
is. It's
really
wonderful.
helped me.
I remember when I got the Night Train, the first. This was the first time I saw anybody do this, and I thought, "Oh, she's so clever," because I'd never seen. I actually don't do Facebook that much, so I would never have. I just
You
never
wouldn't have,
was a
yeah.
Facebook person, and so when I got it, I thought, "Oh, this is so cool!" And it's just, I read it with my morning coffee, usually my third cup of
Love
coffee. I'm at the third cup by the time I get to my emails, but it is such a wonderful way. Just whoa, like you sit back, you
yeah.
sip your coffee, and you read this little section, and then you can get on to all those emails that annoy you. But it's just,
I love
just,
that.
I love it. And starting with
Yeah.
the inclusion of the photographs makes it
Yeah.
really exciting. It just, they read so well. Of course, your writing is beautiful, but the
Thank
story,
you.
the way it comes out, a little bit at a time, it is fresh each time. You feel, I get this feeling like, wow, I know you didn't write it that day, but you get that feeling
No.
that it's an active thing that's happening. I love it.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. I keep telling myself maybe I should do another one. I just haven't had the time to. But it's, as you all know, it is challenging to write something that's short.
Yeah.
Um, it, Short stories are harder to write than novellas, and novellas can be harder than novels because you really have to get it done fast,
And you have to hone it. You
it's
really
fun.
have to, you have to be
Yes.
able to cut out things and just keep that essential information that you
Yeah.
need to get the reader. And with
Yeah.
Night Train, I thought it was so fantastic. And as people will see, I've got pictures there about forget-me-nots, which are
Yes.
relevant.
Yes. Yeah. Because they all
I
have to
thought
have happy ending.
a happy ending, and there's not a happier ending than to end with forget-me-nots. I know that was one
That's
of my
for
mother's
sure.
favorite flowers, and it is so beautiful. And what I liked about it, for people who don't know what a forget-me-not is, particularly in the
Hmm.
South, they don't last very long. But in the
No.
northern places, you get these forget-me-nots and fields of them sometimes that are just
Yeah.
so
Because they're
gorgeous.
really a wildflower, aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
Yeah.
In northern Michigan, we'd get them the part
Mm.
of springtime. And
Yes.
so I like when people mention flowers, and I hope people look them up. But I wanted, in case people didn't know what a forget me not is, they are so beautiful, aren't they?
They really are. They really are.
And the
They're
whole
sort of like
premise,
violets. They're just delicate
yeah.
and so pretty.
And really, you once you see them, you don't forget them. And the storyline for Night Train, so clever. I loved it
Thank you.
from the first chapter. You are just captivated.
I got to do a lot of fun research for that because it's train travel in Europe and ciphers and safe deposit boxes and the CIA, and I covered a lot of ground in that, and so that was that was really fun to research, even though I had to do most of that on a very stressful weekend. Um, but that's okay.
That's okay.
Sometimes we paint ourselves into a corner in life, don't we?
And a real professional gets themselves out of it. they,
Yeah.
they
Yes.
stick to it. It's a process, but you learn it, and you have that ability, the tenacity. You don't give up.
Thank you. Yes, I am tenacious, if nothing else. Yeah.
You were writing the next one. Let's talk about the bookshop, the enchant. I love any book that has anything to do with a bookshop.
Yeah. Don't all readers and writers love them a bookshop? And so this one, I thought, I don't write sci-fi or magical realism or any of that stuff. This one, though, is a little bit of that because it's a bookstore that the young main character inherits. He inherits a book collection from his grandfather and starts this bookstore. The idea behind that is that when people come into the bookshop with a need, and not a need like, how do I repair a fence, or how do I cook in the Mediterranean style, something like that, that would be like a real, oh yeah, here's the book for this, but they have some inner wound or need or something that a book can help fill. They go into this bookshop, and the book they need draws them to it to heal whatever their psychic wound is. And wouldn't we all love a place like that? I think we would. So and then there's, of course, a romance in this as well with a happy ending. That one was really fun to write. I love writing all that. Basically, I love writing. So there you go.
We know that you love writing because you're very prolific, and
Yeah.
it is wonderful what you're able to do. And the nice
You.
thing with these serials, the freshness of them, of for the reader as they're reading it, I think is something that when they experience it, and it's like what happened with Dickens and George Eliot with Middlemarch,
Mm-hmm.
and for her, it was really fantastic. Her husband was the one who came out with the idea that she should do a serialization of Middlemarch and have it come out. In her case, because it's a very big book, but it would
Yes.
come out every section would come out every 3 months. And this is all the way back in 1871. And
Yeah.
my sister and I read it in that same style. We read it, the sections that came out, and we waited the months until the
Oh,
next
wow.
section, because it started on December 1st, and then the next section came in February, which is my sister's birthday, and the next section came in April. So we read it in that style. We wanted to feel the
Love that.
excitement that
Mm-hmm.
the readers felt at the time. And of course, as you said, Dickens did that a lot. Wow, he wrote when he had to get those out. Of course, he was self-publishing in his magazine, and they
Yes.
had to come out. How did he do it?
Yes. Yeah, it's amazing. And for both of those authors, their work still holds up today. It's still enjoyable. There are some authors older authors, that if you picked up their work now, you'd go, ugh, this is too heavy, this is too descriptive, whatever. But not those two.
No.
I think that was so interesting that you two chose to go through it that way. I think that was so fun.
You really, I think, appreciate the author too. In your case, where we're getting a little bit every day, few days,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's that same sort of excitement. As a matter of fact, I know for Middlemarch, they said people won't remember if you do that, if you serialize it. Actually, he got a great contract. At that time, authors weren't making that much money because most people were getting their books from lending libraries. So
Yeah.
But her husband was very clever. He said, let's sell them. And one of the reasons to leave the little gap is he wanted beautiful editions, so they didn't look like cheap library versions. And
yes.
it would give people time to save up their money. The publisher at the time said, they're not going to remember. 3 months? That's crazy. And her husband was very savvy. He said, no, they'll save their money.
Yeah.
And when the next edition comes out, so she was making equivalent of $500,000 today.
Wow. Wow. That is just remarkable. And that's just how everything old is new again.
Yeah.
One of the big trends in indie published authors' print books are sprayed edges and the beautiful finishes and the satin ribbon for the bookmark that's sewn into the binding and all of that. So it just goes to show that even though we're in a digital world and so many people read on their phones or on a tablet or whatever, there are people who still value the beautiful book, the pretty spine and the pretty edging and all of that, and will pay for it. That's very encouraging, I think.
It is. And the lovely paper. I think when you're reading a book and you have nice paper, it really makes a difference. And
I do too.
I agree that you can read digital, and I'm sure you make a fortune from all your digital copies. But
you make money.
Yeah, you do make money, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But for the ones who want that feeling of the book, holding that book in their hands, it is different, and I love it. And
it's even the younger people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
My daughter is in her mid-30s, and she loves a physical book. Yeah. She's very computer savvy, but she said, I spent all day on the computer. I don't want to spend the evening reading on my computer.
Well, I was surprised on the last flight I took. I noticed so many people had hardback books.
That's amazing.
Not paperback.
Wow. Not paperback, hardback. So they're hauling around that heavy volume.
It made me feel so good. I just and also having a book in your hand is a conversation piece. If you're sitting somewhere, whether you're sitting in a cafe or you're on an airplane sitting next to somebody and they have a hardback book, you tend to open a conversation.
Yes.
And one of the joys of reading is having these conversations with people. You're reading it on your electronic device. Nobody knows what you're doing. But the minute you have a nice book in your hand, and I remember one of the books that somebody was reading was a Baldacci. I know that if I was sitting next to that person, I would have gotten into a long conversation about Baldacci. So,
because you know him.
Yeah. And the thing is, this is what we need, this communication between people where they talk to each other instead of everybody looking at their phones or their devices. And having a physical book. One of the things why I love The Train is that, of course, talks about Vienna. And I spent so much time in Vienna researching a book that I've been working on for I don't know how many years. But I would sit in all of these cafes, all of these coffee shops, and I'd be reading a book in English, of course, an English book.
Yeah.
And I'd get so many people coming up to me and saying, what's that book? Who's that? Why are you reading that book? And open conversations, even the owners of the cafes. I'd
Yeah.
get an extra cafe mit Schlag because I'm sitting there for 2 hours because I didn't have a lot of money. So I was like sitting in cafes a lot and making the most out of one piece of pastry maybe. But
Hmm.
it opens conversations, and I hope more people would do that.
That's just brilliant in a world where we're being isolated in our little electronic silos. It's just so gratifying to think that a simple book, which, if you don't have the money to purchase a book, books are still cheap. But if you don't have the money to purchase one, a library book is perfectly fine to have in your hand to open those conversations. And everyone needs the skill of being able to talk to another person who is a stranger to them. You will encounter many strangers in your life that perhaps you need to have conversation with. And it's a good idea to be able to know how to approach people.
And people won't do that if you're reading electronic
Yeah.
book. Nobody's going to come up to you. It's a
Yeah.
completely different atmosphere that you create around you. First of
Mm-hmm.
all, depending on the book, but it right away tells people what you're interested in. Are you reading a
Right.
romance? Are you reading a cozy mystery? Are you reading a thriller? Are you reading
Mm-hmm.
nonfiction? I've
Mm-hmm.
met so many people just because I was reading a book. As a matter of fact, I was in one time in a city called Klagenfurt, Austria. I'd been in Vienna. I went down to Klagenfurt because I was doing some research, and I'm reading a book in a coffee shop, and I get in conversation with this woman who said, "You have to come to our library." And I hadn't thought of going to her library. So we went straight from the coffee
That's
shop to their
fabulous.
library, and they had a whole bookcase full of American books. I stayed in contact with her for almost 30 years from the time I was
Wow.
a teenager. Um,
Wow. That's
so,
amazing.
but that's what books can do.
Yeah. I guess this is a life hack, a life tip we're coming up with here on PatZi Rated from PatZi is if you are new to an area and you've moved somewhere, don't know anybody, get yourself a book and sit down in a bookshop.
Yeah,
Meet some people in your area. And if you're dating advice, you want to meet somebody.
yeah,
What better way than a book about something you're interested in, seeing if someone who also shares that comes up and talks to you? That's
exactly.
great. I
If I
love
was
that.
young and I
Yeah.
saw a guy reading a book that I like or a book that interested
Yes.
me, that's a
Huh.
conversation piece.
That's a conversations piece. That's brilliant.
If it's bookish, I have the idea for it.
You sure do.
I sure do. So books can do so much for people. And in
Yeah.
these troubled times, I want to encourage people to read all types of books. I hope
Yes.
that
Yes.
we need more readers, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's the hobby you can do your entire life.
yeah,
One of the few
yeah.
that you really can do your
Not just
entire
that.
life.
For a reader, it's just great for your brain cells. We all know Gil
Yes.
Garo was right. Those brain cells are important. And
Yep. Yep.
and then of course for a writer, it's wonderful life because you can keep writing
Yeah.
and writing. My oldest guest celebrated her 100th birthday on
Oh my
Joy on Paper.
goodness.
Eugenia Lovett West was 100 years old, and we celebrated her birthday on the radio program. And she
That's
had just finished a
fabulous.
book about cybercrime, a mystery.
Wow. Look at that.
So just think of that.
Yeah.
Isn't it wonderful? And the excitement of being able to do that when you're 100 years old.
Yes.
She could
Yes.
remember D Day like it was yesterday because her husband was in D Day. And yet
Wow.
she's at 98 because of somebody, a friend of hers, got scammed. She decided to investigate cybercrime, and she writes a mystery about it.
That's incredible.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And of course, that's the wonderful thing about writing. And for you,
Yes.
well, your fan
Yeah.
experiences now must be incredible because, of course, with all of your books, the Guiding Emily books and everything, you've
Yes. I've
you're
had such
amazing.
a rich life as a result of being an author. There's absolutely no question about that.
I think it's much more fun than what you would have had if you had stayed a lawyer. And
Yes. for sure. And I like that job, and I love the people I work for and the company I work for, but this is something different.
When you started off, you had no idea you were going to be such a great success.
Oh gosh, no. You write your first book and think, oh, maybe I'll sell 35 copies, friends and family who can't get out of it. And it's just interesting. As fact as we're coming up to July 4th, 2013, I had a BookBub ad that I purchased for coming to Rosemont, thinking at the time, oh my gosh, I'm probably going to lose my shirt on this. It was 300 and some bucks, and I thought I can afford to lose 300 bucks. So I went forward with it, and on July 4th, I guess people are home, not all out at barbecues and stuff, because I sold 10,000 copies of Coming to Rosemont that day. I was number 2 in the entire, and I thought, I'm not going to look. It'll just depress me. I got stuff to do. And I didn't even go online and look to see what might be happening with my book until 7 p.m. And then I was number 2 in the entire Amazon store. And that made my career. So it just goes to show you sometimes luck and chance shine on you favorably. And there you go.
That was a big success.
That was a huge success. And I remember opening my computer and looking at it and thinking, I said, hey, Brian, look at this. I can't believe this. And my husband is like, wow. So there you go.
There you go. So with the serials, you're going to do more of them?
I'd like to. I don't know, because my other publishing deadlines are pretty close together. I'm just probably my goal is by Sunday of this week. We're in a new week now. So by Sunday, I will have finished the 10th Rosemont book, a really good first draft. And then that'll have to get followed up with the editing and a blurb, and I don't have a title yet. And I hate coming up with titles, but I shouldn't say that. I like coming up with titles. Some self-talk, yeah.
With all your different series, you have so many wonderful titles.
Thank you. I'm looking around them in my office. My husband has built me shelves that line the top of my office. I'm in my office here. So I can look at them all and think, okay, what goes with that? And you have to pick a title that can't be misinterpreted into something naughty. I don't always think in those terms, so I always have to Google stuff, and you want to pick a title that isn't used a whole lot by somebody else, or perhaps used by a book that you would not want to be confused with. Not that there's anything wrong, but different genres are not my thing, some of the things. So anyway, it's a process, and I'll be moving into that next month.
I did come across one of your titles, and I had not seen this before, and I found it intriguing. Deadly Parcel.
Oh yeah, Deadly Parcels. I have 2 books, 2 standalone thrillers that are in my Who's There collection. They were nicely reviewed, but I just, maybe that's my own marketing problems, but they just haven't found a home. They haven't done very well, but they've been nicely reviewed, and I enjoyed writing them. They're hard work.
I just got Deadly Parcel today.
Oh, good. You'll have to tell me what you think.
For the covers and things, and I saw that, and I said, oh, that sounds interesting. So I looked at it, and it's exactly something I would love to read. So I got it today.
Oh, good. I love hearing that. And then the companion book, Final Circuit, not companion, but the other one in the series, is about a serial killer that uses a moratorium. And so that I had a whole bunch of interesting research on how moratoriums operate. And I didn't know that you can't run your ovens you only can run them legally during daylight. Isn't that interesting? And there are inspectors who will drive around to see who will know where the moratoriums are and see if they're running after dark. I don't know why that is, but that's the deal.
I'm going to get to that one after I find out what's in this Deadly Parcel. I'd never seen a title with the word parcel in it, which caught my eye. I thought, what is that? And so
had to be original.
Yeah, so it is. So I said, okay, I'm going to get that one, because the Rosemont series, Natalie and I have that one. everyone right in a row. We love that. Of course, and of
Thank
course,
you.
Guiding Emily ever since that started. And there's going to be another one, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll write that probably later this fall. Yeah, I've loved being back in Rosemont and writing about those characters, and that's been really fun. And I live in Phoenix, Arizona, so now when we're taping this, it's horribly hot. It's too hot to go outside and do anything. So if I'm inside, I may as well just be writing.
You might as well, because
Yeah.
your head is full of ideas, and
Yes.
that's the nice thing about how you were doing research for Rosemont, and you come out with another story idea,
Yes.
and it all works. The head of a writer, inside that head, all those brain cells are like they're going like crazy all the time.
Writers are always looking for ideas, always scribbling notes everywhere. I'm the same way. And always, my husband is, oh my God, you are the worst eavesdropper in public. And I am. A couple at a neighboring table having a little bit of a fight over their dinner table. Oh, don't try and talk to me, Brian. Let me just sit here and eavesdrop on that because that's where you get the raw
Oh yeah,
material.
you
I'm
do.
shameless.
And taking every advantage to learn more about human nature and more about people.
Yes.
If you're taking an Uber and you talk to the Uber drivers,
Yeah.
I had it's the material you get just from Uber drivers alone. It's fantastic.
It is fantastic, and I like that learning human nature. I'm going to remember that and just tell that to my husband, who might suggest I'm being nosy and snoopy.
Oh
And I'll
no,
say, no, I'm researching human nature.
that's it. It's part of the process,
It is
and it
part of
is
the
fun.
process.
I've been doing that forever. Of course,
Yeah.
when I was in Europe, in those days, one sat in cafes and outside, and one would listen to conversations. It was wonderful.
Uh,
And I still do it. You, I go to Panera's, and believe me, anybody around me, I'm listening in.
you just can't turn that switch off, and you wouldn't want to.
And you discover nuances too. I love to see that
I
process of
bet.
how people get into a conversation and then where it goes from there. If it builds up, it's always exciting.
Mm,
Yeah. For authors who are thinking about writing a serial, I think it's a good idea. I like them.
yeah.
And I think that, as you said, nowadays you can do it in several ways. You can publish short
Yeah.
pieces on the internet and sell them for 99 cents and
Yeah.
build it up and eventually put it all together as a full book. And that's a way to do it. There are many ways to do it, right?
Yeah. Many ways to do it. Your Patreon account, there's many ways to monetize it. So, yes, and there's a lot written about how to do that out there as well.
You're going to have a busy
Yeah.
summer getting ready for the new Rosemont, which will, I don't know, that'll come out when?
Probably early fall. I have some crossover characters in Rosemont and in one of my Wishing Tree series books.
Oh,
That Wishing
really?
Tree series book comes out October 17th. So I'm trying to decide whether I want to do the Rosemont number 10 on the same day, before or after. It'll be before the election,
Oh,
before
yeah.
the presidential election. Yeah.
Probably people will need something to get.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
good time. It's a good time to get yourself in a book because otherwise you get overloaded.
That's exactly what I and most authors are thinking. We're all like, okay,
And
do it ahead of time.
meanwhile, for the summer, I think it's a good idea, everybody. You can binge on Guiding Emily
I
because
love that.
there are lots of books there. And there are 5 books right now: Guiding Emily,
Yes.
The Unexpected Path, Over Every Hurdle, Down the Aisle, and of course, From the Heart, which is right now just behind me over my shoulder. I have it there
Thank
because
you. I
I love
love
it.
that.
And then I wanted to show you a journal page that Andrea Hyotis, who is, I call her Joy on Paper super fan, and she did this for you. And I wanted to show this and thank Andrea so much for doing this for you. And
Yes.
yeah,
That is just amazing. I was blown away. I just don't even have words. What a talent she is.
She is. And she loves your books, and as do all of us. And I know Rita Moreau sends best regards to you because
Rita.
she's also a super fan of yours. And we are so thrilled every time you have a new book coming out. Again, I'm really grateful to you for joining me on Joy on Paper today. It's always great to talk to you. People binge on, not only can they binge on the Guiding Emily books, they can also watch the Hallmark movie of the first book. But we're hoping that there's going to be some news and that we're going to have more, because that's what we want.
Yeah, and that's exactly right.
One of the things I wanted to do, I have here, I know that you're very involved in donating to different blind organizations. So I wanted to do this. You can donate and get involved, discover how you can help. And these are the foundations, some of the foundations. I know the one that where you started the
thank you
is the right here, the Foundation for Blind in Phoenix, right? This was where you
for blind children
discovered. But there are lots of wonderful organizations around the country, including National Federation of the Blind, the Lighthouse for the Blind and Visually Impaired, Helen Keller International, Blind Veterans, and that's a very important one, really. And of course, Guide Dog Foundation for the Blind.
Absolutely, because it costs about $50,000 to turn out a guide dog. And fortunately, blind people do not have to pay for the dogs. And they usually come with lifetime medical care. So the whole industry is designed to make this very accessible. And that's a lovely thing.
And your work, the support that blind organizations need. And you're donating so much to the blind, not just your royalties, Guiding Emily, but also all of the work that you do for fundraising.
Yeah, thank you. It's been the privilege and honor and the greatest satisfaction of my life to be involved with these causes and these communities, and been just so wonderful and welcoming and generous to me, as have you. Rita introduced us. I'll be forever grateful because you've just been always a delight.
Thank you, Barbara. We love you so much here on Joy on Paper. And here's your website, .com. People can go there. It's a really great website. Of course, you have so many books. You have so many books to write about and other information. I love you do the best giveaways.
Thank
you. Get this idea to do these giveaways?
Gosh, I don't know. They've evolved over the years, the chocolate cookbooks and just all of this stuff. And again, to remind people, if you go to my website, you can read all of the serial books. You'll have to pace yourself if you want to, because otherwise you can blow through the stories real fast. If you want to pace yourself, sign up for the newsletter and you'll get them delivered to you. Otherwise, all those serialized books are on there for free.
Plus all these giveaways. So it's a very clever way to do marketing. I want to just repeat, Barbara's website is www.barbarahinske.com. And Barbara, thank you so much for joining me today on Joy on Paper Live. It's a real treat for me always to get to talk to you, and for my listeners to hear more about the exciting news coming up about number 10 in the Rosemont. Boy, oh boy, when you have a cover, you have to do a cover reveal right here on Joy on Paper Live.
I'd love to. Okay.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I love that. Reveals. I get excited.
That would be fun.
And Natalie will go crazy. You know, she loves Rosemont so much.
My honor, and is always, it's just been a delight. What a way to start my week.
Well,
this is fabulous.
Thank you so much, Barbara. An absolute joy to talk to you. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
It's always fun to talk to Barbara. I hope you'll go to her website and sign up for her newsletter. Then you will start receiving the serialized books in your email. The Night Train is a love story. Silver and Scotch is a mystery. And the Enchanted Bookshop is simply enchanting. And I love it because I used to have a bookshop myself. And here it is. It was called Miami Avenue Book Nook. And it was lots of fun to have it. Of course, it's lots of work. Keep watching Joy on Paper Live. And as soon as Barbara is ready for a cover reveal of book number 10 in her Rosemont series, she'll be right back here. Meanwhile, I hope that you will subscribe to Joy on Paper Live so that I can bring you more interviews with authors who love to write and hope to inspire you. All you have to do is push that subscribe button and then comment, like, and share. And you know that's going to help because that's what we do here on YouTube. Has a book changed your life? Let me know in the comment box. Is there an author you want me to invite? Let me know in the comment box. If you would like information on how to write, how to edit, and how to publish your book, stay tuned to Joy on Paper Live because I will be bringing more interviews with writers, publicists, and publishers. Please take a moment and subscribe. And remember, read a good book. Bye-bye now. Turn the house